Chapter 6. We're back with Hank Zipzer today, and he is worried he is going to need to redo the entire fourth grade. Let's see what happened to him today. I barely noticed anything around me on the walk home. It was like all the great sights and smells of my neighborhood didn't exist. I didn't smell the sausages cooking on Amir's cart on Columbus Avenue, or hear the guy playing saxophone at the subway entrance, or notice the taxis weaving in and out of from bumper to bumper traffic. As I walked home with Frankie and Ashley, all I talked about was what I saw in Ms. Adolph's roll book. We arrived home, went directly to Ashley's apartment, and plopped ourselves down on her kitchen table. Frankie, Ashley, and I live in the same apartment building on 78th Street, and we always go to one of our apartments for a snack when we don't have an after-school activity. The only activity I had planned for that day was to worry. "Have a fried wonton," Ashley said. "Ash, are you crazy?" I answered. "You expect me to eat at a time like this?" "Take one," Frankie said. "Everyone needs something crunchy when they're in a crisis." "Oh, yeah? Says who?" "It's basic, my man," Frankie said. "Why do you think baseball players eat sunflower seeds when they're waiting on the bench? Crunchy for crisis." "Yeah," Ashley agreed. "My mom goes through half a bag of potato chips when she misses a Jeopardy question." "We're not talking about a game here, guys," I said, reaching for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich instead. Ashley's grandma, who has lived with them ever since she came from China last year, had made us her special snack platter: peanut butter and jelly on Wonder bread with a side of fried wontons and hot mustard. If you've never had Chinese hot mustard, then let me just warn you that it's something you should have got. It's something you've got to be really careful with. If you eat a little too much of that stuff, the fumes go shooting out your nose, and before you know it, water comes flying out of your eyeballs. And I don't mean a few tears, but more like blasts from a giant-sized super squirt guns. I swallowed the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in one gulp without even tasting it. "Man, are you ever grumpified?" Frankie said. "I don't know. Man, are you ever grumpified?" "I know, I'm in a bad mood," I answered, "and I have every right to be. Wouldn't you be if someone told you you were going to spend the next year in fourth grade again?" "You don't know if that's true for sure, Zip." "Correction. You don't know for sure. Ashley doesn't know for sure. Her tropical fish don't know for sure. But oh yes, I know for sure." I hated the sound of my own voice, but I couldn't help it. I was mad. Ashley's grandma came to the table, picked up the platter of wontons, and offered me one. She said something in Chinese, which I couldn't understand. But after she said it, Ashley burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" I asked. "She said if you eat something crunchy, you won't be grumpy." "Fine," I said. "If it makes everybody feel better, I'll eat a wonton. In fact, I'll eat the whole plate of them." I reached out and grabbed a wonton like an eagle swooping down to catch a fish. Without even thinking, I swirled around in the mustard and popped the entire thing in my mouth. "Is everybody happy now?" I said with my mouth full. Ashley, Frankie, and Grandma Wong just stared at me. "Not crunchy enough for you?" I said. "Great, watch this." I grabbed another one, dragged it through the mustard, and popped it into my mouth. I looked like a chipmunk with a wonton in each cheek. And then the mustard kicked in and exploded like a crazed pinball inside my mouth. Up my nose, around my eyes, and into my brain it spun. Wow, bam, bzz, bing, bing. I felt like all the hairs on my head were standing straight up and about to take off into space like mini rockets. I let out a yell that was so loud it probably shattered the glass windows in Mr. Anthony's dry cleaners 3 blocks away. Zowie! I shouted, Zowie, which in case if you don't speak my language means, ouch, my tongue is on fire. I had to do something about the flames in my mouth. After hopping around like a crazed jumping bean, I pulled my chair over to the freezer and jumped on the chair so I was tall enough to open the freezer door. I yanked it open and stuck my head inside, flopping my burning tongue onto the carton of mint chip Haagen-Dazs, which is where it stuck like glue. Now my tongue was burning hot and cold at the same time. Have you ever thought about when your tongue is cold and you shouldn't stick it on something outside in the wintertime? Hank just did that with a carton of ice cream. Grandma Wong was shouting commands at me, but they were in Chinese, so I couldn't follow them. She says, get some plain bread, Ashley translated. Tongue stuck, I answered, shaking my head at Ashley. Hank, I can't understand you. I pointed to my tongue, which was stuck to the half-gallon of ice cream. Tongue stuck, I said even louder this time. In case you're laughing right now, let me just ask you to try talking clearly when you have a carton of ice cream hanging off your tongue. It's not easy. Frankie came to the freezer and picked up the Haagen-Dazs container with my tongue attached. He took us both to the sink, Mr. Haagen-Dazs and me. When we got there, he took a glass of water and poured it along the side of the container. I could feel my tongue peel off the container little by little. Ouch. Breathe, Zip, said Frankie. Your tongue needs oxygen. I took his advice and breathed deeply. Wow, was my nose ever clear? It was so open that a 747 jet could have flown straight up into it and done some back loops. Hank, you've got to try to calm down. Ashley gave me a comforting pat on the shoulder. You've gotten yourself into a total twist. All I can think about is that parent-teacher conference, I said. I keep seeing Miss Adolph sitting there telling my mom and dad that I have to repeat 4th grade. Just the thought of that scene made me feel like reaching for another fried wonton. Don't go there, Zip, Frankie said, putting his hand out to stop me. Let's be reasonable about this. What's the worst thing that could happen? Ashley asked. Your parents could go to the teacher conference and sit down with Miss Adolph and hear a little bad news. Yeah, that, I answered. That's the worst thing that could happen. You can't stop it, Hank, Ashley said with a deep sigh. It's a parent-teacher conference. Everyone has one. I wish I could think of some way to stop them from meeting. I said, if my parents never meet with Ms. Adolph, they'll never know there's a problem. And then, before you know it, summer will be here. And then I'll just slide into 5th grade with everyone else. Zengawi, Frankie said, just like magic. Frankie is a great magician, and Zengawi is his special magic word. He uses it to make spongy rubber balls disappear or pull scarves out of his sleeves. Boy, how I wish it would work to make my parent-teacher conferences disappear. Ashley twirled her ponytail around her finger like she does when she's thinking. I have an idea, she said. Why don't you say, hey, Mom, Dad, would you just mind skipping that meeting with my teacher? Just do it for me, would you? I could ask them, I said. It could work. Right, and my name is Bernice, Frankie answered. Come on, Frankie, Ashley said, popping a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into her mouth. Let's put our heads into this. The three of us can think of some way to keep Hank's parents from meeting with Ms. Adolf. We could spray Miss Adolf with invisible ink, I said. Then she'd disappear, and when my parents go to the meeting, all they'd see is an empty chair. Okay, dude, Frankie said. It's finally happened. You've seen one too many action cartoons. Okay, I had to give him that. The invisible ink idea was lame. I shoved my brain into action. I stared at the window above the kitchen sink. A teapot sat on the windowsill. Ashley's family always has tea with their dinner. I like that. It feels warm and comforting. Man, it was quiet in there. No, it wasn't. In the silence, I became aware that the radio was on. It had been on the whole time. We always listened to Cousin Ralphie's top 40 hour of WFUN 99.10 on your radio dial. And believe it or not, it was Cousin Ralphie who had the idea that was going to save my life. Cousin Ralphie! I shouted, springing up from Ashley's bright red kitchen table. I know you can't hear me, but you're the man, and I'm your biggest fan. What do you think is Hank's idea?